welcome Jennie, Lindon, and we're going to be talking in this video about our 3-year-olds and understanding more about our 3-year-olds, how they think, how to play, and to get more really out of our interaction with our 3-year-olds as parents and grandparents. So would you like to start us off, Jennie, by just giving us a bit more insight into a typical 3-year-old, although there is no typical.
No, fair enough,
there's obviously lots of differences in 3-year-olds, but just want to start us off with the kinds of things that 3-year-olds may be up to.
Yes, I mean, one of the most striking things is that if all's going okay, their language will really have taken off, and certainly by the time a child has sort of got about the middle of the year that they're 3, if you are keeping a record of the words that they're using, it's going to be really big. I would say it's actually quite nice. It's not just for parents, it's for children later. It is nice to keep a little diary of them, and even you don't have lots of time to write diaries when you're a busy parent, but I've known older children who really love looking back at just maybe a page that their parents had kept, you know, when you were 20 months you had these words, or you said these funny little ways, and then by the time you were 3, you know, you asked these really interesting questions. So just thinking about children are interested later as well. So the most likely thing is that they will have lots of words. They will definitely hold a conversation with you about something they're interested in, and they will be starting to ask questions. By the time they're heading towards their 4th birthday, some of those questions may make you think.
Certainly. I know that feeling,
No, that you won't necessarily know the answer to all of them. Like, you know, sometimes they're very interested in water and it runs down the gutter, and well, once the water's gone down the gutter, where does it go? Yes?
Yeah.
No, you may have a rough idea. So that, I think, is very exciting, and absolutely always aiming to answer children's questions as best you can.
It just reminded me of a question from my little girl. She said, Mummy, why are we not allowed to breathe on the motorway?
What made her ask that, I wonder?
I think she got muddled up with opening the windows in the car, but she said to breathe.
That's a lovely one, because I think when you have that conversation, or you do say to a child, where's that coming from, or I'm not following what you're saying, you get this just lovely, this window opens into their world, and you realise this is where, if you like, the talking links with their thinking and their general knowledge about the world, and they have learnt an awful lot. But if they are confident their questions will be answered, that's when you hear this lovely, often, you know, heartwarming anecdotes, really lovely stuff about them actually beginning to get a sense of what they know, what they don't know, and that's how then their general knowledge stretches. I think the other thing that always strikes me about the 3s is that physically, both in terms of their large movements and in their finer movements, they have just sort of streets ahead of how they were when they were 2s. They will be more balanced, more coordinated, and depending on the temperament of your child, some of them are very bold. So it is sometimes where you're having to think, now do I say, no, you can't walk on that wall? Or is that my problem? Is the wall actually low enough? And if they'll hold my hand, this is okay. I think also, in terms of their imagination, they will imagine in words, they will have characters, they will make little stories. They will sometimes have imaginary friends. Quite a lot of children have imaginary friends. And by and large, unless the imaginary friend is really disrupting your household, you accept that.
It reminds me, actually, when Alex was 3, my husband at the time, he drew around Alex on a piece of paper, his whole body, and he stuck Alex to the door, and we said, this is Alex, and he'd go and shake hands with Alex every morning, and then he started carrying Alex around, and Alex had to go in the car seat next to Alex whenever he went out on a car journey, to carry this paper cutout everywhere we went.
I think it's lovely, because how then we can sort of think about it as adults is that children have this big step. they've realised that, yes, there are lots of real things in the world, but things can stand for something else.
Yeah.
So yes, here's an outline, and this is me as well. That's also where the tremendous creativity comes in there. Pretend that they can often weave quite complex stories with little figures, because they're able to make that leap, that they know this little figure is not actually a real person, but it's as real as it's ever going to be. And then you just see, often then also you hear sort of woven in what they've heard elsewhere and how you speak. It's disconcerting sometimes.
Yeah, you hear it come back to you.
Yes,
so.
but very competent. She's physically very adept. Still, and I think this is something, lots of understanding grown about other people, but still getting a sense of this rather, mystery world of feelings. I do think it's very important, again, this is how we help, that children begin to learn about feelings, their own as well as other people's, because we, in a friendly way, use the words for feelings when it makes sense.
Yeah.
So if a child does look a bit down, we do say, "Oh, you're not looking very happy," or "Got your sad face on, is something the matter?" And then they get to know the words, and that's when then those words then start to come up. Then at some point then they will be able to say to you, "I'm sad about," or "I'm cross. I'm cross because you." Yes.
So they can start to express their feelings.
Exactly. They can, and if you think again about the siblings, the brothers and sisters, what you want is to get to the point where one sibling can say to the other, "I'm cross with you," and can use their words rather than get physical.
Yeah.
So again, it's a good example of how we use, you don't have to try to make these situations happen, they'll pop up through the day, but we give something in words and then it'll come back again.
Yeah.
And it gives, in situations which may be a bit hard for children to handle,
Yeah.
it gives them that option that they can use their words and they begin to understand what the inside feelings are like.
Yeah.
Just
so,
in a child's world version.
Yeah, so starting to help them to understand different
feelings.
I feel hurt or
Yes.
sad inside. That's what I get.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to understand how other people feel,
Yeah.
and sometimes we're too quick with that. Well, you've hurt them. Didn't you realise you were going to hurt them?
Yeah.
And unless the child has had the attention that has helped them to understand what it feels like when they're hurt, they can't make that step across.
Again, that reminds me of something that happened just yesterday. I picked my daughter up from school and she said, "I want you to look in my bag, Mummy." She says, "I've drawn a picture." And she said, "I've drawn a picture of my broken heart because my best friend, she broke my heart in the playground." So,
and you just think, partly as a parent, you go, why can I not protect them? That nobody will ever hurt their feelings.
No.
And then, the kind of step back plus is think, she told you.
Yeah, and she was able to express it.
Yes, exactly. And then you can, you can have a chat about it. And sometimes I think that's the hard thing as a parent. Sometimes, there can be, okay, what can we do about it? Sometimes, bit by bit as they get older, there's nothing you can do about it directly.
Yeah.
You may be able to help them a little bit about what they might say to somebody else, but you can't charge in and sort it all out for them.
That's it. Yeah.
Hard lesson for us.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And in terms of playing with our 3-year-old, then what can we do to play and just get that interactivity and that fun with our 3-year-olds?
I think, a lot of the play materials that you may have had around already, and certainly thinking about the range you will have in a home if you've got children of different ages, we're still there. So most children like jigsaws at some point, some adore jigsaws. So when you've got the 3-year-old, you're going to have a lot more than the very, very simple ones. I've known some 3-year-olds who really want to go for quite complex ones. So you are there beginning to show the strategies about, we find the edges and the corners. For them, not just for the 3-year-olds, for others as well, there's an awful lot of thinking about, do we get out and about? What's our nearest open space? A great deal works that's simple. If not everybody, but many people have a park or open space, getting out there, running around, having a ball, kicking a ball around, going back to the same place and seeing things change through the seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you've got with the 3-year-olds, the 2-year-olds can remember, but the 3-year-olds remember even more, so that, let's go and see, we're going to see what's happened to the baby ducks. Or, the blossom's going to come out. So that by the time they're 4, they would sometimes be remembering, yes, it's conker time.
Yeah.
So that whole sense about all the possibilities in your local neighbourhood, as well as there will be some domestic things you do without your children, but it's well worthwhile making them part of a bit of shopping. And sometimes there is no choice but to do the shop with your children.
Yeah.
So making them as much part of it as possible. So those are there, but I think also in terms of good quality materials, if they've got materials for building, for constructing bricks and things, they will now be building some really quite complicated things. A chance that they can maybe bring together building with bricks with some of their little figures, maybe from their farm. So a lot of possibilities there.
I think as well, buying for 3-year-olds becomes a whole lot easier, doesn't it, with the safety aspects
I think
as well.
There's much less of a problem around you cannot afford to have little bits. 3-year-olds haven't actually read the child development book, so they still do put some things in their mouths. Any kind of good quality toy should be okay to be sucked a bit, but it's worthwhile bearing in mind for 3-year-olds to say, well, actually no, shouldn't be going in your mouth. So there's a wide range. They do like a lot of things that reflect ordinary life. I mean, a simple toy telephone, nowadays that would be a simple mobile, but also they're very happy sometimes with the real thing, which has been in whatever way is necessary decommissioned. Cards out, batteries out, and then they will pretend. They're also, I mean, again, hopefully it's a good store of materials for drawing, for mark making, both small scale and large scale. But the 3s will be wanting sometimes those sort of finer pencils, or have a go with a biro, and they will be doing some quite fine things.
It's the thing with the 3-year-old, I guess they're starting nursery and those sorts of things, so they're starting to learn the basics of
and I think, I mean, with the 3s certainly, very important, that everybody is kind of on the same page here, and good quality nursery again will not be pushing a 3-year-old to write any more than they'll be pushing a 3-year-old to read. What they will be looking at, which we can be looking at home, is all the things that need to happen before
preparation,
before reading and writing making any sense. And on the writing front, it's plenty of chances to make these, these tools do what I want, to make the marks I want. By the time children are older, 3s, 4s, again, many of them have begun to recognise writing that is around. Meaningful writing, what their name looks like, signs when you walk around the local neighbourhood. And this is something to be very excited about, and this is what you need to be encouraging, recognising meaningful writing.
So recognise their name.
Yes, recognising their name, wanting, certainly some 4s, older 3s, 4s, sometimes will actually be making these marks that they say is writing. So you absolutely say, oh yes, what does it say? And they'll say, maybe it's my shopping list. And you certainly don't push them. You don't make them make letters, but you see how their deliberate mark making starts to look more and more like writing. And some older 3s, probably more a 4s thing. But that bit by bit they're understanding that.
So Jenny, though, just to wrap up with the 3-year-olds then, have you got any tips or advice around managing 3-year-olds in terms of siblings? And I think because they get a bit more independent.
Yes, I think they do. They do like some time to themselves sometimes, and I think it's true, I think, forever with the older sibling, that yes, you would want them to be happy with, you'll spend some time together, you would like them to learn to be tolerant of the younger one, but sometimes it must be all right for them to say, I just want to be on my own for a while, or I want to sit here and I want to play with my little bricks, and no, I don't want you, I don't want her with me. And then for a parent to explain that no, he or she just wants a little bit of time on their own, and you do something that sometimes, and it's a good sign in some ways, that the slightly older child does want to do things that they are capable of doing. Because I think they are moving towards the fact sometimes what they will be able to make with their bricks, especially the smaller locking bricks, will be that much more complicated.
That's great, Jenny. So thank you very much. That's
a
real useful insight to our 3-year-olds, and then we'll move on to 4-year-olds.
Okay.
Okay.
Izziwizzi kids.